to the podcast, everybody. Let's just get right into it with success. What is success for you in your life? Many of you can't answer that question because success has always been designed in somebody else's image and used as a template for your life instead of you defining what your success would be that would actually make you happy. So I'm gonna try to keep this short, but if I go long, I go long. Growing up in DC like I did in the 70s, I remember, and we all had teachers and so forth that would ask, okay, what, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, what do you want to do once you leave the house and so forth? And my goal was to be a scientist, you know, and growing up at the time that I did, and you know, basically a blue collar community where you have to thank the previous decade, you going through all the civil rights stuff, and you know everybody was claiming territory. You had the sexual revolution, you had racial integration, and in some cases racial separation and so forth. you know Everybody was defining their own territory, so to speak. So that was kind of laughed off about me being a scientist. And I remember the teacher was like, boy, you'd be lucky to stay out of jail by the time you're 18. You'd be lucky to be alive when you're 21 years old. And this is something that was prevalent throughout everywhere in that particular area of DC, Northeast DC by RFK Stadium and so forth. You know, all of us, well, not all of us, but most of us was in kind of the same boat. The corporate elitism that you see now, it was there back then, but if this makes any sense to anybody, the elites were more closer to us than they were each other. Okay, it was not uncommon to have, you know, an entertainer, athlete, you know, a member of Congress, even a president visit certain areas. Hell, Ali visited our area a couple of times. He knew my dad, and you know, it was not uncommon to have somebody come to the area, the neighborhood, or even if you went to Georgetown and so forth, and you ran into some of these people and had a conversation with them. It was not uncommon to do that at that time. Just to give you an idea, I mean, just like in New York City, you may run into an actor or actress out there and literally can have a conversation with them without anybody else blinking an eye. Now, everybody has an entourage of, and there's a lot of paparazzi and stuff like that where you will run into these people and you can't even get close to them. And back then, they would talk to you. Hell, they might even, buy you a soda or, something like that. And you just stand there and talk to them for like 10 minutes. And that was not uncommon. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying that to give you a visual of how it was at the time and how the thought processes were at the time. So basically, women were looked at in a whole different arena. It was like, if they were a career woman, that was good and bad. At the times, it's like, everybody's looking to make money and make ways, for themselves and their family. It was like, look, everybody's trying to put food on the table, you know. Um, but when you're talking about defining success, you have to define the environment of which successful people come out of, and what is success coming down to your area, coming down to you. What are you looking for success? Okay. And when people are not happy, even though they are billionaires, even though they're making movies, um, they're doing the stuff that you wish you could do, they're performing concerts, whatever. Most of them are not happy because they're not happy with what they're doing because that may not be their own goal. To actually have happiness and success, the first thing you have to do is define what your goals are, what your goals are, not what somebody else tells you you should do or, how you should be and so forth, you know. And me wanting to be a scientist, it's not the end all be all. And there's many areas in science you can do. Aerospace engineering, auto um, engineering, um, even though that might not be looked at as scientist where you be a doctor, but you could actually go through college and work your way up the ranks, and then you're designing engines, not just fixing them. You're actually designing parts to them. You're designing computers. You're designing, other products that's around that. I'm just saying that for the point of you have to define your own success. Okay? So if you're working and you're like, man, I'm just chasing my tail here. I mean, I'm not getting promoted. I'm not making enough money. I'm making minimum wage. I'm making this. They're telling me I can only do this, or I should try to achieve this goal. You have to step back from all of that. And even if you get to the point before you even get there, if you're in school, make sure you're taking a career arc that you want to do. And then success is not just defined by your work, it's also designed with your home life in mind as well. And when you define it, you have to design it. Okay? That's one thing that you have to learn about success. You have to define what that success and what that goal is, and then you have to design a plan to get there. And you have to understand that it's an ever changing plan. It's like a flow chart. You start off with one area. Then, if you make this decision, it'll take you in this area. If you say yes or no to that, it'll take you in another area. You say yes or no to that, it takes you someplace else, and so on. That's what a flow chart does. It's all about decision making, and it's all about moving from one spot to another spot. So when you're trying to craft your life when it comes to success, you have to know that the end point that you're trying to get to, that's where you want to be. And you may say you want to be an actor. That's fine. What type of actor do you want to be? Does it matter? You just want to be in the field. Then you have to associate yourself with people in that field. If you're going to go into sports or athletics, well, the first thing you have to be is in shape. So you may want to hit the gym, and then you may want to do specialized training for the sport that you're trying to do. Obviously, football, you want to bulk up depending on what position you're playing. You want to have speed, you want to have agility, so forth and so on. So you have to look at regimented training to get to wherever you're going to get to. Obviously, with science, every science is based off of math and logic. So you want to go into the area that you want to best define yourself in. Obviously, if you're going to be an executive, you're going to have to learn leadership skills. And all leaders doesn't have to have, certain classes, but they have to have a quality where people believe that they can handle the job. So when you define success, you have to know what the end goal is for what you're going to do. And you have to define it. You can't have somebody else define that for you, because you're never going to be happy with the result. And you're always going to feel like you're chasing your tail. And then you have to also understand that everybody is not going to be with you when you do your goal. You know, you if your goal is to become, and this sounds crazy, if your goal is to become a preacher, a reverend, a priest, whatever, obviously a lot of theology is going to be in there, and you have to walk the walk. So you will have to get away from some of the societal influences that will take you away from that. Now, if you wanted to go into another area, like you want to be a journalist, obviously you have to learn, how does the press work? How, you know, are you going to be an on air reporter? Are you going to go out in the field? Are you going to do, learn the nuances around what it is, you know, before you get into it and know that's what you want to do. And you also have to understand there's ever changing parts into whatever that goal of success is. And you have to be positive about it. You have to want to do it. And I understand that, people are going to take time to find themselves and try to figure out, what they are and what they want. And there's, social aspects to it, environmental aspects to it, you know, obviously monetary, economic aspects to whatever you're trying to do. But you have to also think to yourself, is this what I want to do, or am I following somebody else's blueprint? And the more you feel like that it's not something you're trying to do, the more likely you're not going to be happy with it. Just like a relationship. You don't want to get married to the wrong person. You don't want to stay with the wrong person. You know, you're not going to be able to know that until you get to know the person and know what your common goals are and so forth. If I define this woman to be the one that I want to be the next Mrs. Baldwin or whatever, then I would have to be able to feel like that we connect, not just sexually or physically and stuff like that. I mean, goals, you know. There's always a set of goals. There's a set of common goals. There may be things that she wants to do. She may be a model. She may be a singer. She may be, a lawyer. Whatever she is, I would have to be able to sync my goals up with hers. And there's no predominance in who is doing what. Hell, I can just be doing YouTube videos, whatever, and she may be better at it than what I could ever do. Not to say that I'm great at doing this, but it's just finding that success point. You have to define what you want to do first. So, after you design your goal to get to it, you have to work at it and stay with it, you know? And you have to have that expectation of, everything is not going to work in sync. And you also have to learn how to learn. As silly as that may sound, there's going to be some points where I didn't realize this entailed all of this. You know, are you going to step up to the plate and try to figure it out, or are you going to change the goal or keep changing that little spot on the flow chart? Are you going to say no to this, but yes to that? No to this, no to this? Because eventually that no is going to take you away from the goal, and then you might have to do another flow chart to get started all over again. And then you may actually have success in a whole another area that you didn't even know that you had in you. But not to confuse all of that, you have to make that choice. You have to define what success is to you first, and you have to understand yourself. What do you like? What do you not like? And what area will best fit that criteria for you to be successful? Another thing, from the 70s and 80s, that spawned out of the 60s was it was always like if you had a college degree, you know, You be making 80,000 to six figures, and you should be, your career arc would always go that way and so forth. You network well, you would always be successful. That's what they had in the commercials. Just like when you get in your 60s, you ready to retire. They used to have these communities. Some of the old heads may remember Club Med and some of the other stuff that they had, and they made retirement look like, oh wow, you can enjoy your golden years on the beach. You can enjoy your golden years, in this gated community and not have to worry about, life anymore. You can ride around in your golf cart and, play golf every day and do, all of these fine things, fine dining, and, you have a Cadillac and, basically live your life. And then come to find out when real life hits you, you get older, you may not be in that top health like they show some of these people in the commercials. You may not be one of those ones that live in a three-bedroom house and supposed to have two kids, a dog, a cat, and all of this. You may not even want to be in a house. You may not even want to live in a suburban area. You might still want to live in a city. You might still want to live on a farm. You know, Once you go through life and you start seeing some of the parallels of other people and what they go through, it better defines yourself and what you want to do. That's why when you live somebody else's life, you live somebody else's blueprint, and you try to get adulation from others, unless that's your job, unless you're an entertainer and so forth, unless you're trying to sell something, why would you care what other people think about you? So if you're going to define success, you're going to have to know the goal, define the goal, design the plan to get there. Then you have to do the work to get there. And you have to stick with that script. I know I'm saying a lot of stuff that's like cliche ish and so forth, but only you can define your life. If you live somebody else's blueprint, you're never going to be happy. And you have to stay positive. Life is going to come at you, you know. You may run into some people that think that they have the same goals as you. You link up with them and so forth. You may have friends, you may have family, which makes it worse, that act like they're supporting you. Just because they're nice to you doesn't mean they're, have your best interest. Just because you butt heads with them all the time doesn't mean they won't help you, because you have some people that's hypercritical and you have some people that, have that pie in the sky mentality like, oh, yeah, you're the greatest thing and so forth. But you have to start sifting through all of that stuff and realize not everybody's out there that supports you. you know Everybody that's positive is not positive. you know I find that people that try to define your success are trying to control what you do more so than helping you. And I find the people that's a little bit critical are, they're like that litmus test. They're like, are you really thinking all the way through with this? And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to balance that. But ultimately, just like I say, when you get in a relationship with somebody, it's just you too. You know what I'm saying? So when you talking about success, it's really just you and whoever you allow to be there with you, you know? So you have to define that. And to keep a positive outcome with success, own it, control it, be responsible for it. Um, don't set a goal that you're not going to achieve. You know, you can make a grandiose goal, but you're not going to get there overnight. But don't put a goal out there that deep down inside that you're never going to do, because you're going to always look at your life like, damn it, I should have done this even though, all right, I'm going to go to the moon. Okay, only a few people set foot on the moon. So that may not be a realistic goal, but you might be able to work for NASA, you know? So you have to set a goal where, there's an expectation that you can get there, but then if you don't get there, your life ain't ruined either, you know? Everything is ever changing. If our lives would predetermine, it would be a very boring world out there. So in this long-winded message that I'm putting out there, know in your heart what you want to do, know in your mind who you want to be with, know that if you don't have your best interest, who else is going to have your best interest for you? That doesn't mean you have to be negative towards anybody. That doesn't mean you have to go into a depressive state. That just means you just have to work at it and just keep a clear head and keep a positive thought going forward to understand what life really is. Life is what you define it. Success is what you define it. And don't let nobody else tell you anything different, you know? And if people in your life, there's always going to be somebody out there that think they can control what you do. I'm sorry, some of them you just have to get rid of, you know, because if it's taking away your positive way of thinking and people just waste your time and so forth, I'm not saying that you exclude everybody out of your life, you know, but realize that people that's around you do not, one, define you, and two, always have your best interest. And when it gets to the point where they feel like they gotta control you and so forth in order for them to be around you, cut the cord. You don't have to deal with it. And if you live in a place where you feel like you're never going to be successful there or you have bad energy there, move to another place. If you're in a bad relationship, get out of the relationship. I'm not saying that any of this stuff is easy, but you have to be positive, you know. Set realistic goals and set up your environment for you to be at your best. You know, um, everything from the bed you sleep in to the food that you eat to the stuff that you have to have that mentality like, I got this. I'm going to be successful. I don't care what comes at me, I'm ready to deal with it. And then when it comes to success itself, you know, once you achieve your goal, that doesn't mean that's the end. It's like, oh yeah, um, I'm at the top of the heap. I'm just going to chill. No, you still have to keep working at it. Redefine new goals and try to maintain or expand on what you have. Because the moment you settle, that's the moment you stop. And that was another thing growing up. It was always about settling. You have to get out of that mentality that, oh, I'll just settle for this because this is all I can do. No, that is not all you can do. You're putting a barrier on yourself to stop yourself from getting better. You have to get better, and you know you can do better than what you're doing. You just don't tell yourself that. You know, don't let anything interfere with that. Don't let addiction stop you. Don't let somebody else tell you that you're nothing. Don't let somebody abuse you mentally, physically, emotionally. Just stick with your goal, be positive, keep positive things in your life, and keep pushing forward. And look at positive images to make your mind and retrain your mind to do what you need to do for yourself. Everything is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be always laid out for you. There's some unpredictability that comes in there, but you have to define yourself and you have to take control of your life. And if you don't do it and you don't build up your self confidence and your self will to do it, you're never going to achieve it. And don't let anybody else tell you different. So I'm not going to make the video any longer than what it is, but you are in control of what success is for your life. You just have to go out there and embrace it and follow the plan and do what you have to do. So that's all I have for you. Until next time.